Can't see you, Ryan. Hey, Ryan, is there something? I guess you got something in front of your screen there, do you? You're not really clear to us here. Maybe you want it that way.
There we go.
No,
Okay.
a little more. Good.
Good evening, everyone. It is 6:02 and the live stream for YouTube has started. So we can now begin. I will confirm that we do have quorum. All members of the committee are present except currently for Charles Foreman, Jose Conway, and Allison Shannon. We will also quickly go run through the members of staff that are currently in the meeting. We have Janet Janes, the Deputy City Clerk, Julie Salter-Keene, the Manager and Climate Leadership, Tracy Snow, the Rural Economic and Community Development Manager, Derek O'Shea is our meeting host, and I am Ian Sullivan, the Committee Clerk. There are currently no members of the public in the public gallery. So I will also quickly start this meeting off as we do have to elect chair and vice chair for this committee. So we do know Allison Shannon did volunteer to be chair, but unfortunately she couldn't make it to this meeting. But if I could have a mover for her to be chair, we do have her confirmation that she has volunteered, so we can move and second her forward. So we have a mover of Cameron Gunn, seconder of Councillor Oosterhoff. Do we have any other nominations for chair? Seeing none, all those in favor? And John, if you could just either raise your hand, virtual hand in Teams, or turn on your video when you need to vote. Perfect, that carries. We have a chair. So we'll now do nominations for vice chair. Is there a mover for nominee for vice chair? Councillor Bohm.
I nominate Councillor Oosterhoff for vice chair.
All right, Councillor Oosterhoff, do you accept the nomination?
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Do I have a seconder for that? Cameron. Any other nominations for vice chair? Seeing none, I will close that, and we will now call the vote in favor of Councillor Oosterhoff being elected as vice chair. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. So with all that out of the way, I will turn the meeting over to you, Mr. Vice Chair, to begin the meeting.
Yeah, thank you, Ian, and welcome to Rural Advisory. And good evening, everybody. It's good to have everybody together for a new month ahead and a new meeting. So we're happy to be together tonight. I would call this meeting to order, and I will ask for a motion for the approval of the agenda. And we have Ryan and seconder. Or any comments first? I guess about the agenda. Any comments? And seeing none, I guess we had a seconder in Cameron. Sorry, Ian. I'll have to learn this a bit too. And all in favor of the minutes from the last meeting? All in favor? Yes. And I'm John. I got John there. Good, John. I see your hand. That's great. If that's what you meant. Good. Thank you, John.
Yep,
and
that's what I meant.
We have minutes. Thank you. So I'm going to move. And number 5, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Is there anyone with something to disclose? Seeing none.
Sorry, Councillor Oosterhoff. So we did vote for the agenda, but I didn't get a mover and seconder for the minutes. And that's what they're going to be.
Oh, I went right to, I didn't do the agenda. I did the minutes, not the agenda.
Yes. So.
Okay. Oh, so
no worries.
Yes, I apologize, Ian. So do you want me to do which one now? You want me to do the approval of the agenda tonight? Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes. Can I have a motion for the approval of the agenda? Yes. Okay. I have Cameron, and then seconded by Councillor Baum. Thank you. Sorry about that, Ian. Now we move on to number 6 and delegations. And we have no delegations tonight. Number 7, we have briefings, and Julie Salter-Keene, Manager of Climate Leadership Division, will present to speak to the committee regarding Climate Leadership Division update. And we are delighted to have her here tonight.
Great, and I'm happy to be here as well. So I am going to do a brief presentation for you for
both of the counselors on this meeting tonight. There'll be a bit of repeat for you. So I will proceed with this. So I am here tonight to provide you with an update on the activities of the Climate Leadership Division and what we'll be working on over the next year. Next slide, please. So Council's strategic priority, they declared a climate emergency in 2019 and had made demonstrating leadership in climate action one of its 5 strategic priorities. The strategic priority on demonstrating leadership in climate action includes actions that reduce our corporate carbon footprint from municipal operations and improve our resilience to extreme weather and changing climate conditions, and enable and support similar actions within the community. So today I will speak briefly on the newly approved climate leadership plan approved by Council in December, and provide you a brief introduction to 2 programs that are currently one has just been launched and the other one that was approved by Council as well, that both go towards reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. Next, please. So as I said, the climate leadership plan was approved by Council in December. It's for the corporation and the community, and it's our roadmap about how we're going to get to carbon neutrality by 2040. Today, the city is taking great action in our next steps to climate leadership and to reduce our emissions across all our sectors and become carbon neutral, I said, by 2040. And the climate leadership plan recognizes that into doing so, to reach that carbon neutrality, that we will need the community action is key to achieving this meaningful climate action. Next, please. The Climate Leadership Plan provides a roadmap for the city and the community to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and reach carbon neutrality. The plan includes 9 emission reduction objectives across 4 sectors, as you can see out on our slide here, and 1 objective focused on adaptation and resilience. And each objective includes short-term and long-term actions. And these actions assess the impact of existing and planned initiatives and designs further actions to chart our clear path to achieve that target. In addition, the plan also identifies key climate change risks and vulnerabilities, providing guidance on opportunities on adaptation and adaptation measures that Kingston needs to undertake to become more resilient. A few of the 54 actions include our Better Homes Kingston program that I will speak to briefly on, our Green Standard Community Improvement Plan that incentivizes new construction that I'll briefly outline, partnerships to extend and support work from and learn from home and to access high-speed internet, and for our rural residents to implement our 15-minute city concepts such as density by design, our local food strategy and education program, including support for farm to table initiatives and focus on food recovery programs, and to engage with farmer markets, agricultural producers, and restaurants to track our local food purchases. Next, please. The Climate Leadership Plan also includes our pathway to achieving our adaptation planning for the city and the community, and to help other organizations and communities groups manage their climate risk. Actions already undertaken by the city include working on doubling our tree canopy and reinforcing our shorelines against flooding and storm surges, which are increasingly common as well. Next, please. So our Better Homes Kingston program, in collaboration with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, is a funding program over 4 years to support local residences, reduce their greenhouse gas emissions and energy consumption at home, with the potential to also decrease their energy costs. It's a 0 interest up to 20-year loan, either $40,000 or 10% of the current market value is the allowable loan, which will cover the cost of the home energy retrofits. And then tied to that as well are incentives, including within the energy retrofits, we include thermal envelope upgrades such as basements, wall insulation, window and door replacements, mechanical systems, air source heat pumps, ground source heat pumps, high efficiency water heaters, etc. This program is launched on April 11th, It's been very successful, the launch, and we have already received over 180 applications. So we're very excited about that, and we're working to approve the applications as quickly as they can so they can get through the process. The next slide, please. Next few slides really go into the details of the program. So the first step, the homeowner is required to have an energy audit completed by a certified energy advisor, and a full rebate on the pre and post retrofit assessment costs can be offered, provided that the homeowner can demonstrate through their energy audit that they will reduce a minimum of 20% reduction in their greenhouse gas emission, or for those homes that are electrically heated, an equivalent reduction in energy consumption. And then the following incentives are always also offered. So if the energy audit can show 20 to 25% reduction, there's an incentive of $1,000. 25 to 30% reduction is $3,000, and greater than 30% is a $5,000 reduction. The loan sits with the property and not with the homeowner. It's a local improvement charge. And we have included within the program as well is a energy coach that will assist the homeowner upon the completion of the energy audit to determine the best way to proceed with their energy retrofits and to ensure that they can meet that minimum 20% reduction. Next slide, please. The short term is that which is a funded program in collaboration with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities, is to retrofit at least 500 homes. Through our study, we have determined that there'll be approximately 200 to 375 jobs created, and with a reduction of 10 to 50% energy cost saving for each year for homeowners. And then the long term, we would be looking at third-party financing where we can really sustain our retrofit market and reducing our greenhouse gas emissions, including after that time with the multiple residential. Next, please. So currently right now, our primary target is older homes built before 1991, but certainly newer homes, if they can demonstrate that they can meet that minimum threshold of 20% reduction, are eligible. Homeowners considering renovations, homes using fossil fuels for heating, household with high energy cost burdens, and homeowners who have identified that they want to lower their carbon footprint. Included within this, as the homeowners are approved to participate, they get access to an e-portal where their energy audit will be uploaded and they can then communicate with their energy coach. One of the requirements of the program is that contractors, renovators, tradespeople participate in training that the city is putting on. We've hired or retained an expert in the field of home energy science. And through that program, the contractors, renovators, et cetera, participate in 2 programs or 2 training sessions paid by the city with respect to home energy audits. Through our development of the program, we realized that, and working with experts in other areas, that there's one way, for example, to install a window, and there's other ways where the window may be installed but not correctly, that you wouldn't be reducing your greenhouse gas emissions. So we work with the contractors. It's not necessary for them to participate in the training, but to get access to the e-portal with the resident, it is a requirement of that. So we've had a lot of uptake already. We've offered 2 training sessions. We'll be offering 2 more in May and probably 2 more in June. We've already had 60 tradespeople go through our training program. So we're really excited that both from the home residents, we've had the great uptake with 180 applications, as well as the contractors who are participating. Next slide, please. The next program I want to just touch briefly on, it's the Green Standard Community Improvement Plan that was approved by Council of the end of last year. And it's focused on incentivizing the construction of new buildings to net zero. So it's aimed at stimulating that residential and the commercial buildings that can have a highly efficient use of energy and water with minimum GHG emissions. So it's those buildings that would build above and beyond the Ontario Building Code, and through our program, we would incentivize them for that. Next slide. So it's aimed at stimulating construction of new buildings, includes proposed financial incentives to help partially cover the cost of the increased cost of voluntary building to a higher standard, and it builds on the existing policies within the official plan. Next, please. As I said, it covers the cost of the incremental cost premium between building to the Ontario Building Code and that extra cost to build to the community improvement plan levels within the plan. And those would be the costs that the city would be incentivizing. Next, please. So this slide briefly shows what we would be looking at. So there's two programs. One's a cash rebate grants one time to a maximum of $250,000. And it's for those buildings probably built that the developer would be selling upon completion of construction. They do require building performance level post-construction as well as prior to construction to demonstrate that they have met the level that they've indicated they're going to build to. And then the incremental property tax rebate, which is similar to the brownfields. It's intended to be paid over 5 to 10 years. And it's for those those builders that are retaining their property. It's to recoup a portion of their incremental capital cost. Next, please. The next program or fund that I like to speak to is one that the community really can get behind. It's the Kingston Community Climate Action Fund. We had just completed our second year of public donations, and this year there was 3 programs or 3 projects that were looking for public donations. One was Sustainable Kingston, looking to raise dollars to install 4 rain gardens in 4 public funded housing projects within the city. The second one is Extend a Family Kingston, and they will be installing a hydroponic greenhouse to provide fruits and herbs and vegetables to approximately 500 individuals over the year. And by producing that local produce, they will lower their carbon footprint because they won't have the associated transportation costs. And the third project was Cycle Kingston, who has raised funds to have secured bike parking at the events over the next year. The fundraising was very successful this year. We raised over $55,000. So all these 3 projects will be going ahead. The fund itself remains open throughout the year for general donations. If you donate, you receive a tax receipt, and then beginning again this September, we will have our campaign, and new programs or new projects will launch in December of this year as well. Next, please. And finally, this is just really ways to engage. As I said at the beginning, it will be key for community involvement in the implementation of our climate leadership plan. I will be bringing a report to the ITP in June with respect to how we will engage with the community on implementing those 54 actions. Certainly our Better Homes Kingston, if there's residents that are interested in the program, please reach out to us and we can help them go through the process. And then the Green Standard Community Improvement Plan as well, with the development of new construction. All these programs are on our Get Involved page, and I will be happy to assist if there's any questions. And I think that is my last slide. So thank you.
Sorry, thank you. Forgot I was chair. Thank you, Ms. Salter-Keene. That was excellent. It is something that we are happy to be watching and seeing the success. I'll first ask if there's any questions from the committee. I can at least break it open first, if I may. I can do that as a chair. I just have questions. And I might also, if it's okay with the clerk, I see that Tracy Snow is also on here, and I'm hopeful that maybe we can engage her. A couple questions I have for her as well related to this topic. And Ms. Keene, I'm just wondering, is there anything in the early part of your, when you talked about the food to table in the farmers markets, is something that I'm particularly interested in, and anything that relates to food security, I think is something that I've always watched and pondered and would like to be more supportive of. But is there something that comes to your mind that is sort of specifically rural that we're finding success in, or maybe there's others as well? But are you engaged? What is, can we know a little bit more about what might be specifically happening?
Certainly, absolutely. So through the development of the Climate Leadership Plan, and I think those were some of the actions that I highlighted earlier in the presentation. So one of the sectors is food and forestry. And under that, there are a number of actions that we will undertake, not just as a corporation, but with the community over the next number of years. There's short-term actions as well as long-term actions. In the development of those actions, when we were completing the Climate Leadership Plan, first we had experts, farmers, farmer market individuals, a lot of farmers, a lot of the food bank, etc., Loving Spoonful, who participated in our technical groups. But in addition to that, I had I called them coffee conversations, except we were virtual, with probably 25 farmers in our area.
Okay.
And they talked to us about what support they need from not just corporation, because they know it's a community effort, but a lot was around developing that local food strategy.
Yes.
If we're going to lower our carbon footprint with respect to food, we need to buy local. And how can we do that and support our local farmers in doing so? So one was to look at develop a food strategy, and maybe Tracy has more on this because she's working with the rural area, but certainly through our actions, and we're just beginning the implementation. We will be, bringing together working groups. And we had that working group on the climate action back in 2019, looking at bringing together those types of community groups that we can then foster and develop that neighborhood type champion who can work with if it's our local farmers to see how we can further provide with that local food security and strategy and get people buying more local. That's just one of the examples or one of the actions in the plan. The other one is with respect to the farmers markets and the agricultural producers and how to track their local food. And one of the farmers on my call was like, he has his own van, for example, and he comes to the farmers market, one person in a truck, and why couldn't they all get together and, buy one truck? And that was just one little example of how, to work as a community and to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions at the same time.
Yeah, it's very interesting. That really speaks to me as well. I like the working group. Someone just asked me out of the blue the other day about would there be groups related to food preservation, things that seem to be lost. What am I calling it? Are people be able to have more food at home available to them? What do you call it? Preserve? Is that preserving? Is that what? Yeah, it's called preserving. I mean, maybe our parents did it, but we don't see it much anymore. But it is something that we might want to maybe have a workshop or something like that. They said so.
Absolutely. Yep.
So,
and I heard that as well. Sorry, I jumped in on you.
No, it's all right. You may do that.
Sorry, I sometimes get a little excited.
No, that's good. That's the question: is there anything that you could contribute on that idea?
So absolutely, there was a really good example when I was speaking with one of the farmers. He was indicating in Ottawa they have a local kitchen that can be reserved or booked out, sort of like if you wanted to have an office right now, we have those in, Kingston. You don't have your full-time office. You can book a working station where they can book for the kitchen for the day and go in and do canning, because a lot of people, they may not have the room at home, or they don't have the capability, and there's someone there to teach them what you were speaking to as well. So that was a really great example that I'm sure once we get our groups together, we will come up with some really good ideas, and some of those would not be that difficult to implement at all.
No, and there are many people in our communities who have gained the gift or who are very gifted at canning and preserving. And I know that in the East End we have an excellent community center with a kitchen right there. Councillor Bohm would know, and I would encourage that. And I don't know what I can do to help encourage that, but I'm really pleased to me, this is so important and valuable for all of Kingston, but certainly I hope that the rural area could contribute to that mightily. maybe I have a question. Is Tracy's there? Yes, I see your hand now, Tracy. And I'm sorry, Cameron, I'll get to you next. Is that okay? Tracy, go ahead.
Yes. Oh, there you go. Sorry, my video was locked for a second. Now it's not. Hi, everyone. So thank you, Julie. Really great information and a lot of synergy and alignment to what the rural economic development role is and the strategy as well. And one of the things, just a few little things, and I was going to talk about this later, and I'll kind of delve more into it a little bit later with my update. But with regards to the kitchens, there's been a huge request in terms of where those kitchens are and what's available. So we're, and Julie, you and I will definitely be talking, looking at, there's 5 kitchens right now in the area. There's 3 in Kingston, commercial kitchens, and there's 2 in South Frontenac. And really kind of putting some communication and collateral together to let our farming community, as well as anybody who's a producer, know what's available. But the caveat to that is we can, and I've done this in the past because I've worked in agriculture and rural for many, many, many years. We can talk to our communities about commercial kitchens, but if a producer or a farmer or a person who has a small farm and plot of land that are looking at doing preserves or cooking, if they don't understand what that does to their business, then offering them kitchens doesn't really help. So, one of the things that I think is really important for us at the City of Kingston is to not just say, hey, we have 5 kitchens, here are the locations, here's the cost, here's what's available, but here's why they're important to you. And so it's that next step where we're helping our local community and our businesses understand how viable those kitchen services are to them and to an opportunity for their business. The second piece is, and this is public knowledge. So last Thursday night, I was in a meeting with the Committee of Council for the Rec and Leisure Department. And there was a motion put in place to go to council that an RFP is put out to look at a different managing system for our public market. And one of the reasons being is right now, the public market only houses 21% local. And in order to be a designated farmers market, we need over 50, I think it's 51% or 50% plus something. So we're looking at really having a thorough review, probably a little late for 2022, but 2023, absolutely starting this winter, a full review of what's happening at our farmers market, looking at some opportunities to maybe expand it and look at different ways that we can be promoting not just local, but local artisans. Not again pushing out what we're currently doing, but maybe looking at a different model so that we're really helping support our local farmers and our local producers. And then the other, sorry, go ahead.
Talking about that is to make sure we keep it. I'm certainly with the local product and produce. I mean, it's a new conversation for me, so I don't really want to say if I don't know, but I mean, it's not always bad to have food, from outside the area as well. But as long as we're not neglecting food that's made in local, that's what we want. That's the objective, right? There is local
Yes.
food being made that we want to make sure has access to the market.
That's correct. And so right now, because of the limitations of how many booths are available, many of the local farmers and producers don't have access to that. And so there's going to be a review at some point once that RFP gets out, and we haven't even written it yet, but once that happens, we'll have a better understanding of what that could look like. And again, Julie, I'm sure you and I'll be working together on those working groups and looking at what the interests are and who's wanting what. But yeah, so I just wanted to let you know those are 2 things based on your presentation, Julie.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that. Are there, Cameron, would you go ahead?
Sure, thanks. Sorry, it's a similar question to yours regarding the action plan and the 4 areas. Just wondering about specifically, this food issues is a easy match with the rural areas. Just wondering about the transportation sector and how specifically that's being addressed in the rural areas.
Ms. Keene? Yeah.
I was just looking. So for, I guess I could address it a few ways. In the development of the climate leadership plan, we had a number of rural individuals sitting on the mitigation adaptation technical teams, including the former chair of the Rural Advisory Committee. So it was great to have her perspective and understanding of the plan and what we need to do to look at it. And then there's a number of actions that speak to rural and urban areas of the city of Kingston in the development of the plan and the actions and throughout. And we made sure that, it wasn't urban and rural, but the entire municipality. And that's why it was important to have those individuals on these working groups, including our community advisory group as well, that were appointed from the rural area to ensure we had that voice sitting at the table.
To be clear, Cameron, were you asking, I'm not sure, were you asking about whether we would have transit? Or what were you?
Well, essentially, yeah. I was asking if there's anything that was specifically going to, any action plans that will, help the rural areas reduce their carbon footprint. Specifically, public transit would be one area, or as the idea that of farmers markets having a communal transport to the markets is a great idea. But I'm specifically, obviously public transit is an area that is lacking in the rural areas. So
Yeah, well,
and clearly a major source of greenhouse gases.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Ms. Salter-Keene might know, and Councillor Bohm also. I think we've been, just correct me if I'm wrong, we've been informed, I think, that there will be a pilot to maybe 2 pilots in the rural area, but I don't have dates on that, but I thought it was in 2022 still. Councillor Bohm, do you know about any more about that? Your area and my area one, I think.
Yeah, last I heard there, Mr. Vice Chair, was staff were looking into some pilots, but with COVID happening, everything kind of got pushed back a little bit. So last update was they were going to try to re-engage on that, and basically everything else got pushed back at least a year to a year and a half. So I think those pilots are still being worked on. As for when it'll happen, I'm not exactly sure. It'll likely be coming, I would guess, to the next term of council would be my best guess at this point.
Okay. All right, that's news. Okay, and Ms. Salter-Keene?
Yes, and outside of that as well, there was other areas where we're looking at about car sharing, electric vehicles in the rural area where, sort of like a park and ride, but if you could be able to have a car sharing program with an electric vehicle, that would reduce your greenhouse gas emissions. So those are actions that we'll be looking at and how we can implement those over the next short term, up to 5 years.
Yeah, that's excellent. Thank you for that. And I appreciate the question, Cameron. I think that there's some the wheels are in motion, and I think that we can be happy about that and see what comes together. Are there any more questions from the committee? I have one more, Ms. Salter-Keene, just related to a conversation actually happened today with constituent about, because I mentioned that we're going to be hearing from you tonight, and I know I mentioned it too, and maybe we can talk about it offline. It was the access to the Better Homes Kingston program, and I'm really pleased to hear about the 180 applications, and maybe we can sit down together too to review it. I was just told today that they found it very difficult, and that there was even some contractors saying that it's not, that there's little benefit. And so, I mean, from the very beginning, I've been supportive, and I would like to see this. I mean, as a professional, it's not for me, but I see these things. So it's an area of experience for me. And so but I understand that you've made the efforts is there with your coaches to make this viable for just about anyone who would apply and be successful.
Absolutely. If there's anyone that has questions, please pass them on to me. And we are Soren Christensen's the program manager for Better Homes Kingston. The energy coach is Cedric Pepele from Sustainable Kingston. And certainly we can assist and help if there's barriers that they see, that we can assist them in going through the program.
Okay, yes, I'll follow up with you offline about that even too, to see if how I can advocate for that too, for constituents that need it. So that would be great. Thank you for that. And if there's no more questions, then I'll say thank you very much, Ms. Salter-Keene, for a great update.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on from there. And that, forgive me, I'm just seeing where we are in here, Mr. Clerk. Climate change. All right, we're moving to 2022 Rural Advisory Committee forecast. Who is going to have that? Ms. James, welcome and good to see you.
Good to see everybody. So as you already know, the city has hired a dedicated rural resource in my colleague Tracy Snow. So the report that is before you tonight, the Rural Advisory Committee forecast report, has been prepared to serve as a bit of a transition report and to provide the committee with the proposed committee meeting schedule, an overview of the anticipated business items for 2022, including updates with respects to rural roads, public works, tree canopy, and the forestry management plan. In addition, quarterly reports are planned from Tracy's office, the Rural Economic and Community Development Office, and these reports will provide the committee with regular updates regarding work accomplished. Having said that, I'd like to turn the floor over to Tracy and give her an opportunity to provide the committee with an initial update on the work that has been initiated and is underway or planned for 2022. Tracy.
Thank you.
Hello again. So the next meeting we have will be a little bit more formal, and I'll have a PowerPoint done up with some of the projects that are happening. I just wanted to give you an update in terms of what's been going on, all based on rural strategy and the goals set up within the rural strategy. So 5 months as of this week, my role has started, and quick update on, met with most of the municipal leaders in the region to discuss opportunities, collaboration, Frontenac County, South Frontenac, and the area, to see what other opportunities we could be doing with them collaboratively. Sometimes working together, especially in a rural perspective, does help when we're looking at our other partners. One of the benefits of working with our municipal partners as well is that the city of Kingston sometimes is not accessible to grants because of the population, especially in the rural piece. And partnering with other municipalities on similar projects will help us get access to grants that we wouldn't been able to get on our own. Working with workforce development partners in collaboration and mutual projects, workforce development with regards to rural workforce development issues, employment, growth and startup opportunities with workforce development and businesses and firms. We've had 2 rural sector teams, so agriculture farm sector teams, in the past few months, where we've pulled together farmers to talk about gaps and opportunities. Many of them were just interested in getting extra support with regards to programs available, rural support, growth opportunities, training opportunities. The abattoir, so there's a new federal facility that's looking pretty positive. We'll find out more in about the next 30 days if it's actually going to happen for sure. The closing of the property on the abattoir in Napanee is at the end of this month, at the end of May. The goal is it's going to be a 15,000 square foot federal facility that will process both red meat and poultry. Really great opportunity for our farming community and all farming communities in Eastern Ontario. They are, anybody in the rural area realizes that farmers are absolutely capped in terms of their growth potential because they don't have any processing capabilities with our existing abattoirs in the region. They are all at absolute limit and bursting to the seams. So having a new federal facility will allow us and myself and my role, and then all of you and everybody and our partners to work collaboratively with our farming communities to show them, similar to the kitchen piece that I was saying earlier, just to show them and talk to them about what does a new abattoir look like in regards to their business, what potential could be happening with their business if a new abattoir was in place. And I've had many conversations over the years with farmers and some of their needs. And I've had so many farmers say to me, I'm just a crop producer at this point because I don't get into animals and anything in that regard because I don't have any choices. I don't have choices to look at processing or even what that looks like. So they just tend to the ground as opposed to doing anything with animals. There are massive gaps happening because there isn't an abattoir that can accommodate these extra needs and also help with the growth. So I'll keep you posted on the next meeting on how that's looking. We're doing a lot of marketing and push out with regards to the role and the support that this role has. COVID's been a bit of a challenge. I've been in a very similar role in the past, rural economic development for many, many, many years in Lennox-Hampton County. And it was really easy for me to just get in my car and go visit and say hello to local businesses and local farms. I wouldn't do that right now with COVID. It would be very unprofessional. And so we're doing everything we can to touch and reach and meet people in the agricultural industry and the rural business industry. Saturday night, for example, I was at the National Farmers Union Spring Fling Barbecue. And so I was attending that and meeting with farmers and having a chat about what their goals are and what their needs are and introducing myself and what we offer at the city. We're working with Frontenac County on the Open Farms event. That was a 3-year event that they started pre-COVID. Open Farms has been a phenomenal event in the region. One of the things that I've noticed, though, is that the City of Kingston farmers, so the rural Kingston, City of Kingston farmers, haven't been participating. We have just a few that have been participating. Not sure why at this point, but there is an absolute interest in our Kingston farmers participating in this event. So we'll start doing a reach out and including our local farmers to let them know about that. One of the things we heard very clearly at the farming sector team meetings was that they wanted a celebration event in the fall, kind of like a harvest event. That whole farm to table, really having an understanding and a training opportunity to show our communities what farmers do, how important that food from the farms to their table is, how the restaurants in our region are taking advantage of local farms and utilizing local food as best as they can in their menus. So I'm in the process of trying to coordinate a new event, a very first time event. We're hoping it's going to be Saturday afternoon, October 1st, very preliminary stages at this point, looking as a wrap up to Open Farms. So Open Farms Harvest or Open Farms Feast, something to that effect, where we actually have a celebration of local food that wraps up the Open Farms event, but then is also a training opportunity and a learning opportunity for our communities to really see what's happening in our farming community, especially in the Kingston farming community, which we've never really done in the past. So I'll definitely keep you posted on what's happening with that one. Working with our local regional partners as well. So RTO 9, Regional Tourism Ontario, our Region 9, has a grant available right now, but they're also really engaged in supporting rural. And I have a great relationship with Bonnie Ruddock and her team there to see what we can be doing from a tourism perspective in rural Kingston. I have a staff member right now who's doing some work and I'm speaking closely with South Frontenac and Frontenac County on possible bike tours. So we have great bike trails. So the City of Kingston on the website has a great bike trail system. South Frontenac on their website has great bike trails. Frontenac County has great bike trails, but there's never really been a collaboration or like a package where we can be saying, hey, why don't you look at a day package where you can be taking the Cataraqui Trail, from Kingston and then going through maybe to part of South Frontenac or Frontenac County. But not just that, not just showing them that the trail is available, but then also working, say, with food partners or restaurants kind of within the region where we could be saying, here's your breakfast from this restaurant or these choices that you have, go for your bike tour, this is where you can get your lunch. And then maybe if it's a 2-day event, then we would offer them different maybe Airbnb options or cottage options or little motel options that they could be staying at as an accommodation partner. So Tourism Kingston's been really involved with the discussions with me so far on this. South Frontenac and Frontenac County are super excited about what that could look like and want to work with us collaboratively on that as well. And then the other piece is coaching and training from the agricultural perspective and the rural business perspective. There are many components that are so important to offer farming community that they haven't been aware of before. And, one of them, Councillor Oosteroff, you were mentioning, what does that look like, if you want a canned product that you grow in your fields? what does that look like for a commercial kitchen to be available to you? And what can you do with your business, based on a commercial kitchen? Again, same thing with the abattoir. What does that look like from your business standpoint, that there's these services that are now available to you? How can we help you look at your business differently and grow your business differently? One of the pieces as well on the workforce development side that I'm managing too is succession planning. So we can help our rural community and our rural businesses and our farmers talk about startups and growth, and buying and purchasing. But what about that succession plan piece where we have businesses and rural farmers that haven't even thought about that? Who's going to take over their business? It could be a very successful business, but they're not sure what that looks like. And I've done this many, many times in the past with my other roles. So we're putting together actually a package of opportunity, one being that succession plan piece, so we can talk to our rural businesses and our rural farmers about what succession plan looks like for them and what that could mean. So that's another big piece. And then the final point that literally just came about in the past few weeks, the City of Kingston is really fortunate. We received some grant funding to create a program called the Community Farms Project. It's called Community Training Farms, my apologies. So it's called Community Training Farms. And the idea is that we will be training up to 30 participants on what it's like to grow food and what it's like to be a farmer. And what are the things in terms of the trade skills that are needed to run a farm. So we have grant dollars to help support up to 30 participants. There will be internships available with the idea that after these 30 participants go through the program, they will then have potential jobs within our farming communities to help support our farmers in their employment needs. We have St. Lawrence College involved to help train on the trades piece. So carpentry, what does carpentry look like on a farm? Does it mean building fences? What does it look like to build a barn? What about electrical? So we have St. Lawrence College helping us on the trades piece and the training. And then we actually have Loving Spoonful working with us on the farm training. She's hiring a full-time farm training manager. And we're making arrangements with the Collins Bay Penitentiary to have a parcel of their land to look at doing the farming on that land. So another really great opportunity that at the next meeting, I'll have much more to present to you, and I'll make it a little bit more formal. Any questions? That was a lot. Sorry.
Thank you, Tracy. It's great to have you here. I'm excited that you can be a regular part of, hopefully, speaking of Rural Advisory, because it's going to be a real integration of so many of those ideas, and it will just hopefully bring out the best in us as everybody, gets involved and brings their perspective on it. So it's really what we wanted all along to have that. So I see John's hands up, and you go ahead, John, if you have any questions, and others too soon.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Tracy, that last one really piqued my interest.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, John.
How are you doing, Tracy?
Good.
Good to see you. So as you know, I used to be in the military, and the military has this thing called vocational rehab, where people who are medically releasing can find other places to work. And it's ideal if that place might offer them employment after they're out of the forces. So when you were speaking about this farm training opportunity, and then you said that you're thinking about the city securing some land at the Collins Bay Penitentiary, is it possible that we partner with local farmers? And here's a pecuniary interest for you. I get a funded intern, basically being funded through this grant that the city has secured. But instead of the city going through the cost of securing its own land and trying to set up its own farming thing, they're just going to farms that might be in a position to employ them after the fact. Is there scope for that, do you think?
Yes, absolutely. And so there's been discussion about all of that moving forward. This is the first time that this has ever happened. And honestly, the application was put in before my role started. So it's kind of like we were almost all saying, if I had been around when the application had been in process, I probably would have recommended a few other things and maybe ways to look at it differently. But we're really excited that this is just the first step to many more years of offering this and adapting it to best fit what our farmers need and what we need and what the participants need. So yes, absolutely, no question. That's moving forward for sure.
Great, thanks.
Okay.
Just to pick up on that, John, that is a fantastic question, and gets all our minds rolling, I think. But could we ensure that there's some follow-up on that question? I don't know if it's a parking lot issue or I guess, Tracy, that's your job, I guess, but I'm not trying to speak for that. But that kind of thing would absolutely be, catch fire, I hope, but also, give the kind of support. Obviously, there's so many other benefits to this, right? So especially the teaching and the training, and then the support for area small farmers. So I'd sure like to hear more about that, and maybe you two should also connect offline a little bit and discuss that. John, I would encourage you to do that. Yeah. So any more questions that we have from our committee? I just wanted to comment, Tracy, as you were talking about the partner events that you had with the NFU and Frontenac County, I really liked the idea of open farms as well. I think that that's something that would be really beneficial for all of Kingston, but certainly the rural area. And you didn't give dates on that, but I guess that's something that we will stay tuned on.
I'll get you. Yeah, I'll keep you informed on dates. So I think the Open Farms event is September 15th and 16th. It's whatever that Saturday and Sunday is. And then the wrap up harvest event, the food event, will be on Saturday afternoon, October 1st.
Yeah, saw that. Yeah, 17, 18.
Okay, there you go.
City calendar. But the thought I had was, are you able to provide, or through the Kingston, through your team and there's some support for this? Because I can see where it bogs down because everybody's busy, and how do they do that? Is that something that you have resources and personnel to that can be a support, or is that going to be the Frontenac County doing it? And then or is there more to it?
Yeah, no, that's okay. So I have a meeting with Frontenac County next week to actually look at the next steps for open farms. And so as soon as we have more information on what those next steps look like, I'll absolutely be doing a reach out to this group and then to our farming groups as well. Frontenac County, so they're going to change it. It's no longer going to be Open Farms Frontenac. We're going to change it to Open Farms Frontenac and Kingston, or something to that effect. They're going to do a lot of the administration work for it. The only blessing to COVID in the past few years with this particular event is that it forced the farmers to actually have everybody register for their tours, which became a brilliant idea, right? Because then the farmers just weren't overwhelmed with 500 people at a time coming onto their property. So it's going to be a registered event. Frontenac is organizing all of that, but we're going to have access to that through Frontenac and the Kingston website. It's going to be everything, us as well as Frontenac County, all in line. So I will definitely keep you informed as we're pulling this all together.
Yeah, that's great. It just resonates as something really, really great to see, and be great to see it come to fruition again and develop. So see, John has his hand again. Go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to put the bug in Tracy's ear about why some farms might not be engaging with on farms. Speaking anecdotally for myself, for a friend up in Elgin who has a similar sort of operation, it's really sort of the thing that's more appealing to people who have some sort of on-farm retail operation. Otherwise, you just have a bunch of people coming onto your farm. It's quite a hazard, really, electrical fences, livestock guardian dogs. So, I mean, if people have retail capacity and there might be some benefit to having all these people show up on their farm, then they're going to be all over it. Otherwise, I don't see the point, really. It doesn't do anything to bring economic interest to my farm, and it potentially has very high cost if some toddler touches an electric fence or gets too close to a guard dog.
No, absolutely. No, I understand your concerns for sure. And, even from a, transferring bugs and bacteria from one farm to another on foot, that's another issue as well. Absolutely understand that. I think from the larger perspective, it's really just helping our communities know what we have. I mean, nobody's really ever talked about that in the past. And, I can laugh about this now. I finally have a beautiful list that I'm creating, but the first few months I'm reaching out to everybody going, does anybody actually have a list of the farms and the rural businesses in our community? And nobody had ever curated it. Like, it had never been put together before. And so that in itself has been a real learning curve just to, for myself that's in the role. So if I'm dealing with that, what a great way for us to educate our communities about what we have in our, 83% of our land base at the city of Kingston, and all of the, the wonderful things that can be happening. And then I guess the other piece too, and I keep going back to this just from my past experience, it's also, it's a real learning curve for our rural businesses and our farms, because a lot of times if they're not introduced to something that's different or new to them, they may not even realize there's an opportunity that they would like to consider. So I absolutely appreciate where you're coming from. But I'm looking at it from that broader perspective as well.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that's very good. I think that we're all encouraged to hear this, Tracy, and to partner with you on this and see some real success come to the rural strategy. So thank you. And if I see no more questions, then we'll move on from there. And I don't. So we will move on. Recommendation that the Rural Advisory Committee recommends to Council. Am I right on that, Mr. Clerk? That the 2021 Rural Advisory Committee report card be approved as a summary of the work accomplished by the committee.
Yes, you are correct. And I believe Derek O'Shea will be quickly introducing it.
Oh, good. All right. Yes, thank you. Hello, Derek.
Good evening, everybody. Here in my last act as former clerk for the committee. Before you right now is the report card detailing the work from the committee from 2021. Really simply, it lists many of the presentations and staff reports that were brought to the committee, which was a significantly larger volume than past years. People were coming to the committee proactively, which I think is a good sign. Additionally, it also provides details about the motion passed regarding the Frontenac CFDC borders, which passed at the final meeting in 2021 and went to council. And lastly, this report also provides an overview of the change in staff support for the committee, highlighting the addition of Tracy Snow's position and the work that she will be doing with the committee. So this report is something that is required annually as part of the city's committee bylaw. If passed this evening, it will go up to council for consideration at the second meeting in May. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have about this report.
Okay, thank you, Derek. Are there any questions? Tracy, yes.
I just have a comment. So I was attending, goodness, I think it was my fourth day that I attended the last meeting, the rural committee meeting. And I think, John, you were the person that had brought up the CFDC boundary. So I happened to have a chat with Ann Pritchard, who's the executive director that week, because I know her very well from other things that I've done. And just so you know that there is conversations on a regular basis for her to be able to expand that region to include rural Kingston as well. But as I had said earlier in the presentation, partnering with other municipalities within the area that are defined as rural will allow us to have access to grants and programs that we wouldn't have had access to as a city of Kingston. So we're going to try to do it the backwards way. If we can't get it through the CFDC, there's going to be other ways that we can be looking at, potentials.
Yeah, thank you for that, Tracy. And I really do want this community to be aware of that. I have to admit, I meant to pick that up, Tracy, from the earlier presentation, because I can say for, the past 5-6 years, that's been a thorn that we haven't been able to pull out of us. So, with considerable knocking, but obviously the launch of the strategic rural strategy is making a difference that way too. And if you could, that's again something that I really could use. You could keep us informed of those developments, and the positive news in that area would be a big win for the rural area, Kingston. Thank you. So if there are no other questions, then I'll just ask the clerk, do we make a motion to accept, to make a motion to recommend this? Is that what you want to do? So do I have someone who would make a motion to accept this recommendation? Yes, thanks, John, and a seconder, and Cameron. And so that the Rural Advisory Committee recommends to Council that the 2021 Rural Advisory Committee report card be approved as a summary of the work accomplished by the committee. All in favor? Any opposed? And seeing none, then we have unanimous, I believe. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. And we will move on from there to number 9, motions, and seeing no motions. Number 10, notices of motion. I see none. Other business and correspondence. And the date of our next meeting of the Rural Advisory Committee is Monday, June 13th, 2022 at 6 p.m. And I'm just looking here, and okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? And Ms. Ryan Bohm, thank you, and seconded by John Wernham, thank you. All in favor? Okay, and we are adjourned. Thanks to everybody for being here tonight.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.